This is HOA Karma Files. It started with snow and ended with a board meltdown. I am standing in 12-degree weather watching Melissa Wilson yank my driveway stakes out of the frozen ground like she owns my property, and honestly, I am too tired to even feel angry yet. You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. She shouts over her shoulder, dropping the orange stakes into the snowbank and turning to wave a violation notice at me. Your vehicle is blocking plow access, and those markers are unauthorized signage under Section 4.6. You have until 6 p.m. or I am calling the tow company myself. I moved to Fairbanks, Alaska 3 months ago for work, installing security systems in a state where cameras and privacy laws actually mean something, and the Snowbank Estates Association has been on me since day one. The subdivision sits on the edge of town where the rules are not about safety or fairness, they are about leverage. Melissa is the neighborhood watch liaison, which in practice means she patrols the streets in a golf cart with a blinking amber light, takes notes on everyone, and treats residents like suspects. My job keeps me on strict shift rotations, and the sleep loss from constant harassment is pushing me to the edge. I parked my truck slightly off angle last night to avoid a sheet of ice spreading from the storm drain, and now she is claiming it blocks the plows even though the street is 20 feet wide and nothing has come through since yesterday afternoon. The stakes I hammered in last week were there to mark my driveway edges so the plow would not shove snow into my walkway. Melissa decided they counted as signs. Now she is yanking them out on camera, because the doorbell unit I installed 2 days ago has a perfect view of the whole driveway, and she either forgot or does not care. I pull out my small notepad, pages already damp from the cold, and write down the time. She snatches her bag of ice melt back from where she set it on my mailbox post and clutches it like a prop. "What are you writing?" she snaps. "A log," I say. "Same thing I have been doing every time you show up. You are on camera right now pulling out property markers I installed on my own driveway." Her face goes red. "Those are not markers. Those are unauthorized structures. And your truck is still illegal." "The truck is 4 feet from the curb on a street wide enough for 2 plows," I say. "There is no obstruction." She steps closer, breath fogging between us. "I do not care what you think. The board voted last week to implement emergency winter enforcement standards, and you are in violation. If that truck is not moved and reparked in compliance by 6, it is getting towed. If you put those stakes back up, that is another fine." I let her say my name loud, because later I wanted it on the recording. She obliges. "You think you are special because you install cameras," she says, voice climbing. "You are not. Everyone here signed the same covenants. You do not get to ignore the rules just because you work weird hours. And if you keep pushing back, we will make your life a lot harder than a tow bill." "Make it public," she adds with a tight smile. I love watching people get embarrassed. I write that down too. She notices, and her smile drops. A contractor I know, Sam, is replacing a heating unit 2 houses down. He is standing near his van watching the whole thing with his arms crossed. Sam refuses to be bullied, and he has made that clear to the HOA twice already when they tried to dictate his work hours. He gives me a small nod. Melissa storms back to her golf cart, tosses the stakes into the passenger seat, and drives off with the amber light blinking. The snow pusher is still leaning against my tire where I left it this morning after clearing the driveway. I pick it up and lean it against the garage door instead, then check the doorbell camera feed on my phone. Perfect angle. Her hand is clearly visible yanking the stakes, and the audio is clean. I walk over to Sam. He shakes his head. "She is out of control," he says. "I heard her threaten you with a lien last month over your trash cans." "That was a complaint log entry," I say. "Someone filed it under my address, but the writing style was obviously hers." She used the phrase "failure to maintain standards," which is her favorite line. Sam laughs. "You should run for the board." I am barely keeping up with work, I say. But I am keeping records. Every notice, every interaction, every contradictory enforcement. I have been building a file since October. He nods. Good. Because they are going to escalate. They always do. He is right. 2 days later, I get a certified letter from the Snowbank Estates Association Management Company. It is not a fine. It is a lien threat. The letter claims I owe $400 in winter enforcement surcharges, another $200 in administrative fees for multiple violations, and if I do not pay within 10 days, they will file a lien against my property and disable my key fob access to the community amenities. The amenities are a small gym and a package room. I use the package room twice a week. Losing fob access means I would have to reroute deliveries to my work site, which is 40 minutes away. The winter enforcement surcharge is not in the covenants. I read the whole document when I bought the place. There is a section on snow removal responsibilities and a vague clause about emergency measures, but nothing about inventing fees. I call the management company. The rep who answers, a guy named Dennis, sounds tired. "I am looking at your account," he says. "There are multiple violations logged. Unauthorized signage, vehicle obstruction, failure to comply with emergency directives." "Who logged them?" I ask. "The Neighborhood Watch Liaison," he says. "She has enforcement authority under the Covenant Compliance Committee." "Is there an appeal process?" I ask. "You can request a hearing with the board," he says, "but the fines stand until the hearing concludes, and if the board upholds them, you still owe the full amount plus any additional penalties." "What if the violations are false?" I ask. "Then you present evidence at the hearing," he says, "but you need to file the appeal in writing within 5 days, and the board meets once a month. Next meeting is 3 weeks out." 3 weeks is too long. My next work rotation starts in 6 days, and I cannot afford to lose sleep sitting in a hearing room fighting made-up charges. But I also cannot afford to let this slide, because if they get away with fake fees once, they will do it again. I file the appeal that night. I attach photos, the doorbell camera timestamps, and my own log entries. I keep copies of everything. The weekend arrives. It snows another 8 inches Friday night. I wake up at 5 a.m. Saturday to clear my driveway before my shift. The plow has already come through, shoving a frozen ridge across the end of my driveway like it does every time. I spend 40 minutes chopping it out with the snow pusher and a metal shovel. By the time I finish, my shoulders are burning and I am late. I get in the truck and back out. Halfway down the street, I see Melissa in her golf cart coming the other way, amber light flashing. She stops in the middle of the road, blocking me. I roll down the window. She gets out and walks up. "You are parked illegally again," she says. "I am not parked," I say. "I am leaving for work." "Your driveway is not cleared to HOA standards," she says. "You left snow piled on the curb strip." "The plow left it there," I say. "I moved it as much as I could without a truck-mounted blade." "Not my problem," she says. "You are responsible for clearing the full width of the approach. That is in the winter addendum." "There is no winter addendum," I say. She pulls out her phone and shows me a PDF. It is dated 2 weeks ago. The board passed it at an emergency session I was never notified about. The addendum includes new language about curb strip maintenance, snow pile placement, and slip hazard liability. It also mentions the winter enforcement surcharge. "This was never sent to residents," I say. "It was posted on the community portal," she says. "You are required to check it weekly." "I do not have portal access," I say. "I requested a login in October and never got one." She smiles. "Then you should have followed up. Ignorance is not an excuse. Now move your truck back and finish clearing, or I am logging another violation." I am already 15 minutes late. I cannot win this argument in the street. I reverse back into my driveway, grab the shovel again, and scrape another 10 minutes of frozen slush off the curb strip. Melissa sits in her golf cart watching. When I finish, she drives off without a word. I get to the job site 25 minutes late. My supervisor is not happy, but he does not write me up. I explain the HOA situation in 3 sentences, and he just shakes his head. He has heard worse. That night, I get another certified letter. This one is from an attorney representing the Snowbank Estates Association. It is a formal notice that my appeal has been received, but the hearing date has been moved up to Monday night, 4 days from now, due to the severity of the violations and the risk to community safety. The letter also states that if I fail to appear, the board will proceed with a default judgment, and the lien will be filed immediately. The hearing is at 7 p.m. My shift that day does not end until 6. I will have to leave early, which means burning personal time I do not have. I call Sam. He agrees to come to the hearing as a witness. He saw Melissa pull the stakes, and he has his own stories about HOA overreach. I spend Sunday organizing my evidence. I print every photo, every email, every log entry. I create a tabbed binder with sections for each violation. I include the doorbell camera footage on a thumb drive. I also pull the certified mail receipts and file them in order. The paper trail is clean. Monday afternoon, the weather turns. The storm clouds that have been stacking like a wall since morning finally break open, and snow starts falling in thick, wet sheets. Visibility drops to almost nothing. I leave work at 5:30 and drive home through whiteout conditions. The hearing is at the community center, a low brick building at the front of the subdivision. I arrive at 6:55. The parking lot is half full. I grab my binder and head inside. The meeting room is small, with a folding table at the front where the board members sit. Melissa is already there, standing near the side wall with her arms crossed. She is wearing the same gray coat and hat. The bag of ice melt is sitting on the floor next to her. The board president is a man in his 60s named Gerald. He has thin silver hair and wireframe glasses. He calls the meeting to order at 7 sharp. We are here to address the appeal filed by the resident at Lot 47, Gerald says. Multiple winter violations, non-compliance with emergency standards, and refusal to cooperate with neighborhood watch enforcement. I raise my hand. That is not accurate, I say. I have complied with every original covenant rule. The violations are based on a winter addendum I was never notified about, and the enforcement has been selective and retaliatory. Melissa makes a scoffing sound. Gerald ignores her and nods at me. You will have a chance to present your case, he says. But first, the compliance officer will provide the board's summary. Melissa steps forward. She pulls out a folder and begins reading. The resident has repeatedly violated parking placement rules, installed unauthorized structures, failed to maintain curb strip clearance, and obstructed snow removal operations, she says. He has been verbally warned multiple times and has ignored all directives. His attitude has been hostile and uncooperative. The fines and surcharges are appropriate under the Emergency Winter Addendum, which was duly passed by the board and posted in accordance with governing procedures. She sits down. Gerald looks at me. Your response, he says. I stand and walk to the front. I set the binder on the table and open it to the first tab. First, I say, the winter addendum was never sent to me. I requested portal access in October and never received a login. I have the email confirmation here. Second, the parking violations are false. My truck was parked 4 feet from the curb on a street wide enough for 2 full-width plows. I have photos with measurements. Third, the driveway stakes were property markers on my own driveway, not signage. The covenant defines signage as communication intended for public view. Stakes marking a driveway edge do not meet that definition. Fourth, I have video evidence showing the neighborhood watch liaison removing those stakes without permission, which is destruction of property. I pull out the thumb drive and slide it across the table. Gerald picks it up and looks at Melissa. Do you want to respond? He asks her. She stands. Her face is tight. Those stakes were in violation regardless of intent, she says. And the video does not change the fact that he was non-compliant. It shows you committing vandalism, I say. The room goes quiet. One of the other board members, a woman in her 50s, leans forward. Can we see the video? She asks. Gerald plugs the thumb drive into a laptop and projects it onto the wall. The footage plays. Melissa yanking the stakes, her voice clear on the audio. You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. The board watches in silence. When it ends, Gerald ejects the drive and hands it back to me. If you are enjoying this, hit like and subscribe, because this is about to get even crazier. This is concerning, Gerald says, but it does not address the other violations. There are no other violations, I say. The curb strip issue was caused by the plow, not by me. I cleared it the same day. The obstruction claim is false, and the winter surcharge is not in the covenants. You cannot invent fees without a proper amendment process and resident notification. Melissa stands again. The addendum was passed legally, she says. The emergency clause allows the board to implement temporary measures without a full vote. Show me where, I say. She hesitates. Gerald flips through a printed copy of the covenants. He does not find it. The emergency clause allows for immediate action in cases of safety risk, Gerald says slowly. But it does not authorize new fees. That would require a formal amendment and a notice period. The room shifts. The other board members exchange looks. Melissa's face goes pale. Then the fees are invalid, the woman on the board says. Gerald clears his throat. We will need to revisit the addendum, he says. In the meantime, the fines related to the surcharge will be suspended pending review. Melissa snaps. You are letting him off because he brought a camera, she says. This is exactly the kind of entitled attitude that undermines the whole system. If we do not enforce the rules, no one will follow them. You sign the covenants, now you live the covenants. It is the second time she has said it tonight, and this time it lands differently. The board president frowns. The rules have to be enforced fairly, he says, and they have to exist in writing before we can penalize someone for breaking them. Melissa grabs her ice melt bag and storms out. The door slams behind her. The board takes a 5-minute recess. When they come back, Gerald announces that the parking and stake violations are dismissed, the surcharge is suspended, and the board will schedule a special session to review the winter addendum and the compliance process. He also says they will be discussing the role of the neighborhood watch liaison. I thank them and leave. Sam is waiting outside in his truck. He grins when he sees me. How did it go? He asks. Better than expected, I say. But it is not over. He is right. 2 days later, Melissa tries again. This time, she does not bother with letters. She goes straight to the gas station lot at the edge of the subdivision where I stop every morning for coffee. I pull in at 6:15 a.m., and she is already there in her golf cart, amber light blinking in the pre-dawn dark. I get out. She blocks my path to the door. You think you won, she says. You did not. The board is weak, but I am not. You humiliated me in front of everyone, and now I am going to make sure you regret it. I pull out my phone and start recording. She notices and laughs. Go ahead, she says. Record whatever you want. I am doing my job. You are the one violating covenants every single day, and I am going to document every single one until the board has no choice but to act. What violation, I ask. Your truck is parked crooked, she says. Your trash cans are 6 inches past the setback line. Your driveway has ice on it, which is a slip hazard under the addendum. Take your pick. The driveway has ice because it is winter in Alaska, I say. Then you need to salt it, she says. That is your responsibility. I salted it yesterday, I say. Not enough, she says. I walked past your house this morning and I saw a patch near the mailbox. That is negligence. She is escalating because she lost, and she does not know how to stop. I keep recording. A tow truck pulls into the lot. The driver, a thick-shouldered guy in a heavy jacket, gets out and walks toward the gas station. He slows when he sees us. Melissa turns to him. Excuse me, she says. Do you contract with Snowbank Estates? Sometimes, he says. Good, she says. I am going to need you on standby for a potential violation tow this week. The resident here has multiple parking infractions, and I want to make sure we have a truck ready when I call it in. The driver looks at me, then back at her. Lady, I do not do standby for HOA disputes, he says. If you want a tow, you call dispatch and they send someone. I am not sitting around waiting for you to pick a fight. Melissa's face goes red. This is official business, she says. The driver shakes his head and walks into the gas station. Melissa turns back to me. You are going to lose, she says. I do not care how many recordings you have. The board will side with me eventually, because I am the one who actually enforces the rules while everyone else pretends the covenants do not matter. She gets back in her golf cart and drives off. I go inside, buy my coffee, and send the recording to my evidence folder. That afternoon, I get a call from Dennis at the management company. He sounds uncomfortable. I need to let you know, he says, that we have received additional complaints about your property. The compliance officer is requesting a follow-up inspection, and if any new violations are found, the board is authorized to proceed with immediate enforcement. What complaints? I ask. Ice hazard, trash placement, and vehicle positioning, he says. All filed this morning. By Melissa, I say. By the Neighborhood Watch Liaison, he says carefully. I have documentation that those complaints are retaliatory, I say. She confronted me this morning and explicitly threatened to file violations until the board acted. Do you have proof? He asks. I have video, I say. There is a long pause. Send it to me, he says. I cannot promise anything, but I will forward it to the regional manager. I send the video. I also send the hearing footage, the certified mail receipts, and a written summary of every interaction since October. I outline the timeline, the fake fees, the selective enforcement, and the harassment. The next day, Dennis calls back. The regional manager has reviewed your file, he says. She is concerned about the liability exposure. If the HOA is pursuing retaliatory enforcement and we are enabling it, that creates risk for the management company and the association insurance. What does that mean, I ask. It means we are going to recommend the board pause all enforcement actions against your property until we complete an internal review, he says. And we are going to recommend they reassign compliance duties away from the current liaison. Melissa is not going to like that, I say. That is not your problem, he says. But it is. Because Melissa does not wait for the board to act. She decides to force the issue herself. It happens on a Thursday morning. I wake up to my phone buzzing. It is Sam. You need to get outside, he says. Now. I pull on my coat and boots and step out into the driveway. My truck is gone. In its place is a bright orange tow notice stuck to the garage door. The notice claims my vehicle was towed for repeated parking violations and obstruction of emergency access. It lists a tow yard address 30 miles away and a retrieval fee of $450. I call the tow company. The dispatcher confirms the truck was picked up at 5:45 a.m. under an HOA authorization. Who authorized it, I ask. The compliance officer, she says. We have a signed request on file. I did not receive any warning, I say. The request says notices were issued multiple times, she says. If you want to dispute it, you need to take it up with the HOA. I hang up and call Dennis. He is already aware. I just got the notification, he says. This was not approved by the board. The liaison acted on her own authority, and she is claiming it falls under emergency enforcement. It is not an emergency, I say. My truck was legally parked on my own property. I know, he says. The regional manager is furious. She is calling an emergency board meeting today. But in the meantime, you are going to have to retrieve your vehicle. I call Sam. He drives me to the tow yard. The whole way, I am running through the numbers. The retrieval fee, the lost work time, the sheer absurdity of having my truck stolen off my own driveway by someone with a clipboard and a grudge. At the yard, the attendant brings my truck around. I pay the fee with a credit card and get a receipt. I also ask for a copy of the tow authorization. The attendant prints it. Melissa's signature is at the bottom, along with a handwritten note claiming immediate safety risk. I take a photo of the document and send it to Dennis. The emergency board meeting happens that night. I am not invited, but Sam texts me updates. The regional manager attends in person. She presents the liability assessment, the complaint timeline, and the retaliatory evidence. She tells the board that if they do not take immediate corrective action, the management company will terminate the contract, and the association insurance carrier will likely non-renew the policy. The board votes unanimously to suspend Melissa from all compliance duties pending a formal review. They also vote to rescind the winter addendum and refund any surcharges collected. Gerald resigns as president, citing health reasons. The new board president is the woman who asked to see the video. 2 days later, I get a formal letter from the management company. It is an apology. The letter states that the tow was unauthorized, that the retrieval fee will be reimbursed, and that the association will cover any additional costs I incurred as a result of the improper enforcement. It also states that Melissa Wilson has been placed on a no-contact directive and is prohibited from interacting with me or filing complaints related to my property without board approval. I frame the letter. The following week, I attend the next regular board meeting. The new president opens with an announcement. "We are adopting a new winter compliance policy," she says. "All enforcement will require photographic evidence, a written notice with a 14-day cure period, and board review before any fines or liens are imposed. We are also establishing a formal appeal process with neutral third-party review, and we are prohibiting any single individual from having unilateral enforcement authority." One of the other residents raises a hand. "What about the compliance officer?" he asks. "The management company is handling compliance going forward," the president says. "The neighborhood watch liaison position is being restructured to focus on community engagement, not enforcement." There is a murmur of approval. The meeting moves on to budget items and landscaping contracts. I stay until the end, then walk out into the cold. Sam is waiting in the parking lot. He grins. "You actually did it," he says. "We did it," I say. "You showed up when it mattered." He shrugs. Someone had to. Melissa thought she could bully everyone into submission, but she picked the wrong guy. The next morning, I am clearing my driveway when a car pulls up. It is Dennis from the management company. He gets out and walks over. "I wanted to follow up in person," he says. "The board formally adopted the new policy last night. The regional manager also wanted me to let you know that we are conducting a full audit of all compliance actions taken over the past year. If we find other cases of improper enforcement, we will be issuing refunds and corrections." "That is good," I say. He nods. "For what it is worth, I am sorry this happened. Melissa was out of control, and we should have stepped in sooner." "You did eventually," I say. He hands me an envelope. Inside is a check for the tow fee, plus $200 for my time and trouble. There is also a letter on management company letterhead summarizing the findings and the corrective actions. "The board wanted you to have this," he says, "and they wanted me to tell you that if you are interested, there is an open seat. They are looking for someone with a background in compliance and documentation." "I will think about it," I say. He gets back in his car and drives off. I finish clearing the driveway, prop the snow pusher against the garage, and head inside. The doorbell camera blinks green. A week later, I get one more piece of mail. It is a certified letter from an attorney, but this time it is not threatening me. It is notifying the board that Melissa has filed a complaint against the association, claiming wrongful termination and defamation. The attorney is requesting documentation of all board actions related to her removal. I forward the letter to Dennis. He replies within an hour. "Already handled," he writes. The HOA attorney reviewed the case and declined to represent the association in any counteraction because the evidence against her is overwhelming. The board is not pursuing further action, but they are also not backing down. Melissa's complaint is going nowhere. 2 months later, the subdivision is quiet. The new compliance system is working. Residents get clear notices, reasonable timelines, and a real process. The golf cart with the amber light sits unused in the community center garage. The winter addendum is gone. The covenants are the covenants again, and they apply to everyone equally. I see Melissa once more in early March. She is walking her dog on the far side of the subdivision. She does not look at me. I do not look at her. The no-contact directive is still in place. Sam stops by that afternoon with coffee. We sit in my driveway and watch the snow melt off the roofs. "You ever think about running for the board?" he asks. "Maybe," I say. But right now I am just happy to park my truck without someone threatening to tow it. He laughs. Fair enough. The Snowbank Estates Association still exists. The rules still exist. But the leverage is gone, and the fear is gone, and the person who wielded both like weapons is sidelined. The system is not perfect, but it is better. And that is enough. I go back to work. My shift rotation stabilizes. I sleep better. The cameras keep recording, but there is nothing to record anymore except delivery trucks and the occasional neighbor walking a dog. In April, the board sends out a survey asking residents to rate the new compliance process. I fill it out honestly. It is working. It is fair. It is what it should have been from the start. I also get a follow-up call from Dennis. The audit is complete. They found 11 cases of improper fines or surcharges over the past 18 months, most of them filed by Melissa. Refunds are going out next week. How much? I ask. Just under $9,000 total, he says. Yours was not even the worst. One resident was fined $1,500 for a fence that was never out of compliance. Melissa just did not like the color. I shake my head. How did she get away with it for so long, I ask. Because no one pushed back, he says. Everyone just paid and moved on. You were the first one to fight it. I was the first one with a camera, I say. He laughs. That helped. That night, I drive out to the gas station. The same tow truck driver is there, filling up. He recognizes me and walks over. You are the guy with the HOA problem, he says. Was, I say. He grins. I heard about that. My dispatcher told me the whole story. That compliance lady called 3 more times trying to get us to tow you again. We told her to pound sand. I appreciate that, I say. No problem, he says. I do not work for bullies. He gets in his truck and drives off. I buy my coffee and head home. In May, the snow is gone. The streets are clear. The golf cart stays in the garage. The new board president sends out a newsletter announcing the completion of the compliance audit, the adoption of the new winter policy, and the formation of a resident advisory committee to review any future rule changes before they go to a vote. I am invited to join the committee. I accept. The first meeting is in June. We sit around a table in the community center and discuss fence guidelines, landscaping standards, and parking regulations. It is boring. It is procedural. It is exactly what HOA governance should be. One of the other committee members asks about the winter policy. Is it working? She asks. It is, the president says. We have not had a single dispute since it went into effect. Residents know the rules, enforcement is transparent, and appeals are handled quickly. What happened to the old compliance officer? Someone else asks. She is no longer involved with the association, the president says, and that is all we are going to say about it. The meeting ends. I walk out into the long Alaska evening light. The subdivision looks normal. Quiet. Safe. Sam calls the next day. He is laughing. You are not going to believe this, he says. What? I ask. Melissa is moving, he says. I saw the for sale sign go up this morning. I do not say anything for a moment. Then I ask, where is she going? I do not know, he says, but she is leaving. Someone told me she could not handle the embarrassment. That is her choice, I say. He laughs. Yeah, but it is still funny. She tried to run you out, and she is the one leaving. I do not feel triumphant. I just feel tired. The whole fight was exhausting, and I am glad it is over. By July, her house is sold. A young couple moves in. They introduce themselves at the mailbox one afternoon. They seem nice. They have no idea what happened. The subdivision moves on. The rules stay in place, but they are applied fairly now. The management company stays engaged. The board meets monthly. The advisory committee reviews proposals. It is functional, boring, and exactly what it should be. I stay on the committee for a year, then step down to focus on work. Sam takes my seat. He is better at the politics anyway. In September, I get a letter from the management company. It is the final closeout of my case. All fines are cleared, all records are corrected, and the association has formally adopted the neutral appeals process and the revised winter enforcement standards. The letter thanks me for my patience and cooperation. I file it with the rest of the documentation. The binder is 3 inches thick now, full of notices, receipts, photos, and timelines. I keep it on the shelf in my office, just in case. But I do not think I will need it again. The Snowbank Estates Association is just another HOA now. The covenants are just covenants. The rules are just rules. And the people who enforce them are accountable. It took 8 months, a tow truck incident, a doorbell camera, a stack of certified mail, and a management company that finally decided liability mattered more than loyalty. But it worked. Melissa Wilson tried to weaponize the rules, and the rules broke her instead. The board adopted a clear winter policy with neutral proof standards and a real appeal process. The management company disciplined the rep who enabled it, and Melissa got placed on a no-contact directive by management. I filed a documented appeal that overturned the decision on the record, handed out copies when she demanded proof, and watched her panic when the paper trail went public. The snow pusher is still leaning against my garage door. The doorbell camera is still recording. And the subdivision is still here, quieter and fairer than it was before. I park where I want. I shovel when I need to. I sleep through the night. And when winter comes back around, I know the rules, I know my rights, and I know the cameras are watching. That is enough. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you being here.